right, welcome back to the chapter 5 here. We're going to be taking a look at the last costing method, which is called weighted average. So if you remember my example I already mentioned a couple of times here is that water bottles, right? You're constantly buying and selling water bottles. There's no point to put a price point on it, or there's no point to have to raise prices because it's a natural resource that is constantly being needed and constantly being purchased. So in this case, that's what we're going to do. We're going to treat them as each and every batch that we purchase, we're going to treat them as they're going to be evened out at the end of the day. Okay, that means no matter how many batches of inventory that we purchase, right, we're going to spread the total cost evenly through amongst the entire quantity. Okay, so that's average, weighted average. So in this case, right, everything is going to be the same except for one formula, which is going to be the cost per item. In this case, since we don't really care about which batch came first or which batch came last, we care about getting the grand total of every single one. So this is where there is no cost per item, but there is an average cost per item, right? Where you're going to get your total cost and you're going to divide it by your total quantity. Okay, and that's going to give you your average cost. So again, we're combining all of our batches of inventory that we purchase, and instead of putting price points on them separately, we're going to combine them together and figure out what they cost on average. Okay, so a little math here that we're trying to only designate one price point for the entire batches of inventory that you purchased. So here's another example. And then we're going to also practice journalizing. So here, June 1st, you made a purchase of 100 toys for $1.25 with a freight of $25, right? So then in this case, you journalize it as purchase expense, freight expense, and however you paid for it. Now, this is where you're going to have to remember. So when we dive in and put our inventory, okay, when we put our inventory for the very first time, okay, it's going to be the same exact formula. The only difference is instead of having a cost per item, it's going to be called an average cost per item. Now, our assumption is that if we make a purchase of inventory for the first time, right, just assume that this batch is going to be the only batch available, okay? So in this case, you do the same formulas, plug in for your purchase price, which is quantity times unit price, which gives you 125, plus your freight of 25 would give you your total cost of 150. And then this one, right, because we're just going to assume that this is the only batch and the only batch available, or if we do intentionally sell it, we need to know what the average cost for this is. So in this case, right, we already know what that is because the total cost is $125 and the total quantity right now is 100, right? That's all we have available. So boom, I put my total, my cost per item to be $1.50. Okay. So then the next time, right, on June 11, we end up purchasing another 100 toys for $1.28 with a freight of 26. So again, plug in your numbers. Okay. Now, when I put in my table, now I have a new batch of inventory. So here, to 100 at $1.28, we solve for the same number. So 128 plus 26 will give you 154 total cost. And now the question is, am I going to calculate my cost per item? In this case, no, you won't need to. Why? Because now you have a new batch that's being introduced. So there's no need to have a cost per item here because now we need to combine our totals together to get what our average cost per item is. And luckily, at the end of this one, we have the 15th that happens along here. So this is where we're going to solve for our average cost. So right now, I have 200 total units, right, at a total cost of $304. So this is now I'm going to now solve, because now that I know how many I have available and I know what my grand total cost is, now I can solve for my average cost per item. So in this case, my average cost per item is going to be my total cost of $304 divided by my 200 units. And that's going to give me $1.52. Now think about it. Your first batch cost you $1.50. Your second batch cost you $1.54. We're trying to find a number that is right in between. So in this case, $1.52 is exactly right in between $1.50 and $1.54, right? You have something that's low cost, something that's high cost, and you have something that's right in the middle. And that's exactly what average costing does, is it combines all together, all the cost per items, and finds a midway point between them. Okay, so then you're not costing too high, you're not costing too low, you're costing right in the middle. Okay, so that's the idea of average costing. So now it's gonna averagely cost me $1.52 per item. Okay, so we go ahead and plug our numbers in. Right, now that we solved our numbers, now we're gonna plug them in to our little chart down below. Okay, so there you go. My net purchases are plugged in. This time we don't have beginning inventory, but we already acknowledged that our net purchases is going to become our goods available. And because we were also given that 80 units, right, was your what was left behind on June 15th, we now can solve for our cost of goods sold. So we got 200, and then we have 80 units left. So that means our assumption is we must have sold 120 units. Now, how do we solve for that? This is our goods available, right? We know that we have 200 units costing at a grand total of $304, and its average cost is $1.52. This one makes it much more simpler because, one, we don't care which batch came first, and we don't care which batch came last. We care about the grand total amount of every item and getting its average cost. So in this case, I need to sell 120. Well, great. We could just take 120 and multiply it by the average cost per item. And that's going to give you $182.40. So boom. Okay. And then now we need to solve for our ending balance, which in this case is going to be the 80 units left remaining at $1.52. So that's going to give you $121.60. Or you could take your goods available of 304 and minus that 102.40 from the cost of goods sold to get the same exact answer. Okay? So incredibly much more easier, because you don't have to deal with any of the batches that came first or have to know which one came last. All you care is about getting them all together and combine them together and solve for one dime. One calculation only. Any questions? Okay. So of course we got to do our periodic conversion. So again, you're going to be plugging your numbers in, right? You're going to do your ending balance and cost of goods sold, as well as your purchase expense and your freight expense, right? Straightforward, right? So what happens when you have beginning inventory? So in this case, what if I have to carry inventory from somewhere else and to carry it into our new batch of inventory? Well, in this case, right, that's exactly what you do. We're just going to go ahead and plug them in. So June 15, you had a ending balance of 80 units at a total cost of $121.60, right? You're going to go ahead and plug that into your inventory on hand, right? You already know that. So then when you make a new purchase, you just go ahead and make a new purchase, right? So here, purchase of 100 units at 127. So that's going to be 127. And then you're going to plug in your 25, right? To get your whole total of 152. Now, in this case, it's optional to calculate your cost per item, but in this case, we have beginning inventory. So at the end of the day, you're going to combine them. So is it optional to calculate your cost per item? Yes. Do you have to do it? No. Okay. So then I'm going to go ahead and plug in my second scenario, which was that I purchased on June 23rd, that I purchased 100 units at $1.30, which cost 100 and 130 plus 26 would made it 156. So again, it's optional to do your cost per item. So now I have to go ahead and tally up my totals. So again, for total purchases, I have 200 units at $257 plus freight of 51, giving me a grand total of 308. Now in this case, right, because I do have beginning inventory, I am not going to calculate my average cost here. Why? Because I also need to include my beginning inventory. So in this case, I don't need to solve for my average cost. So where do I need to go? Well, so now that I plugged in all my answers here to get my net purchase, I now am introduced to my beginning inventory, right? I have 80 units from the very beginning. So I'm going to go ahead and plug that 80 units in, put in my net purchases, and then now I got a grand total of 280 units at a grand total cost of $429.60, right? I combine them together. So then now I know that for my ending balance, I have 60 units remaining. So at least I know how many units that I'm going to be selling, right? Or that I sold. In this case, 280, right? Minus 60 left over is going to give you 220. Now I need to piece together everything. Well, in this case, I know that I have 280 units available. And I know my grand total cost is $429.60. So I'm going to go ahead and do my average cost per item here. And that's going to tell me, right, that it's going to be $1.5343. Now, yesterday I mentioned this to you. There's a huge difference when you round up versus round down versus round at all, right? If you choose to round up your cost per item, your average cost per item, you are most likely going to either lose yourself in profits or you're going to hurt yourself in business, right? Now, in this case, if I were to round up for this instance, or in this case, it'd be 153, right? Again, I can lose out on profits, especially if I am selling thousands and thousands of items. Okay, so again, and as a business, you are going to be selling thousands of items. So every penny counts, even that thousandth of a penny, even that half a penny will count. Okay, so in this case, I will be teaching you how to use unrounded numbers and then round at the end. Okay, so in this case, I get a rounded number of when I calculate my cost of goods sold. So now that I know that my average cost is 1.5343, right? Right? So I'm going to multiply my 220 units. That's going to give me a total cost of goods sold of $337.54. Okay? And then, of course, you could do your ending balance however you'd like. So in this case, easiest would be the 429.60 minus the 337.54, and you'll get the more accurate answer instead of having to do another rounding math problem there. Okay, so here, that is weighted average. Any questions in regards to weighted average? It's one of the more easier and more widely used types of costing methods. Tommy Norman, you good? Okay, sorry, excuse me if I sound awful, okay? Alright, so then let's and then the conversion entry, right? we still need to make sure that we associate the difference between our ending balance versus our beginning balance, okay? That's always important, right? Because in this case, we took our beginning balance and we combined it together with the purchases, right? So that's the one thing that you have to remember is to include. And of course, your ending balance is going to be whatever you had left remaining, right? That you're increasing the asset for. Okay? So let's go ahead and compare, right? So between the three methods that we learned, right? FIFO, this is the results. When we did FIFO, we had 200 units that we purchased and 80 units remaining, and we sold 120 units, right? That was the scenarios from all three, okay? That from the PowerPoint. Now let's compare. I started out at we all started at $304, right, as our goods available. However, when we calculated the cost of goods sold and our ending balance, this is what difference between all of them. Okay, so in this case, FIFO, right? We end up reserving our last batches that we purchased, and we end up selling our first inventory items, which are generally more lesser and more cheaper on that end. Okay, so in this case, I got a result of having ending inventory of $123.20. Okay, where if I go to LIFO, since I sold all of my more expensive items first, right? I ended up with the inventory of 120, okay? And then for average or weighted average, right, I end up getting something that is in between, right? 121.60, okay? Now here, does it matter which costing method that you use? No. Why? Because at the end of the day, whatever you purchased your inventory at, you're going to cost the goods at the end of the day, and you're gonna basically match every single penny that you purchase to every single sale that you make. So does it matter at the end of the day? No. Okay. Is it wiser to use one or the other? Honestly, it's just based on what you sell in your store. Again, I gave you examples of what are very, very good examples. So for example, FIFO would 100% be the best for groceries, especially when you're selling perishable goods and things that expire, right? That's the perfect example. That way you don't reserve your, expiring foods last. Okay. And then, of course, weighted average would be the most commonly used ones because you don't have to worry about what batch came first or which batch came last. All you care about is just combining them and getting a cost that's in the middle. Okay, that isn't too high and isn't too low. It's right in the middle. Okay, all right. So, actually looking at all the comparisons, is there any questions about the three methods that we learned? Okay. So again, chapter review, what you're going to notice is that you're going to see a trend when it comes to using the costing methods, right? If you're using FIFO, you're going to notice that you're going to start from the top of the batch and slowly make your way down to the bottom batch, okay? LIFO, you're going to notice that you're going to start from the bottom of the batch and slowly make your way up to the very first batch that you purchase, right? And for average, we don't care. We combine them all together and we get an average cost per item, or in this case, you're only looking for the middle number. Okay, so that's something that you can note in your books here, that FIFO, you're starting from the very first batch and making your way down to the bottom, and so on and so forth, right? Okay. So let's go ahead and dive right into the first exercise here. Okay, so same numbers, only difference is the costing method. Okay, I'm not going to have you practice journalizing because, again, it's going to be rinse and repeat, right? Purchase expense, freight expense, and however you paid for it. But you can go ahead and practice that on your own if you want to. But for this case, let's just go ahead and plug our numbers into our inventory worksheet and solve from there. So in this case, April 5th, we purchased the 1,000 units at $5 each with a freight cost of $100. So plop that into your inventory worksheet. Okay, so we got April 5th, 1,000 units at $5 each with a freight of $100. So in this case, what is my purchase price here?
$5,100.
That's your total cost. So purchase price is $5,000.
5,000.
Total cost is $5,100.
Yes.
Right? Now in this case, since we have our very first batch of inventory, it is rule of thumb that if this is the only batch that you're going to start selling your items from, you would definitely need to know what your cost per item is, because right now this is the assumption that we only have this batch of inventory. It might be the only batch of inventory. So in this case, what would my average cost be? It'd be $5.10. Good. So the next one here is April 10. We purchased 750 units at $5.75 each with a freight of 75. Okay. So again, April 10, 750, 575 with a $75 freight. Okay, so in this case, purchase price
4,312.50.
and then total cost
4,387.50.
So in this case, it is optional if you want to do a cost per item. But right now, no. We're going to save it to the very end to do the rest. Okay. Next, right here is April 20th. We purchased 200 units at $6 each with a freight cost of $20. So April 20th, 200 units at $6 each gives you $1,200. Plus the freight of 20 gives you $1,220. And then the last one we have here is April 25th. We purchased 500 units at $6.25 with a freight of $50. Right? Plus 50 will make it $31.75. Okay? So now that I'm going to be given that on April 30th, you have a total of 600 units available. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and pop that into my ending balance here, that I should have 600 units at the end of this, right? So what I need to do is I need to go ahead and tally up my totals, because my totals is going to tell me what I need to plug in for my net purchases. So in this case, what was the grand total units that I have purchased?
$2,450.
Okay. 2,450. What was my total purchase price? What was that?
Never mind.
So in this case, what is my purchase price? 13,637.50. What was my total freight? $245, giving you a grand total cost to be $13,882.50. Okay. So in this case, since we don't have any beginning inventory, you are more than welcome to go ahead and solve for your average cost now. Okay. So in this case, right, I have my total cost of $13,882.50, and I have a total quantity of 2,450. I now need to solve for my average cost per item. So what would be my average cost per item?
5.6663.
Good. That means on average, each one is going to cost about $5.666333. Good. So let's go ahead and plug our numbers in for our net purchases here. So in this case, we have a total of 2,450 units at 13,637. We are assuming we have no returns and allowances, so this should stay the same. Freight adds nothing to the quantity, but it adds to the cost. Okay. We have no beginning inventory, so we carry down our net purchases to, and then of course if you add 0 to your net purchases becomes your goods available. Okay. So now that we know that we have 600 units available at the end of our inventory, we know that we have 2,450 units to begin with, right? So how many units have I officially sold?
1,850.
1,850. So I'm going to call this my orange batch. Okay. And I'm going to call this one my blue batch. Okay. So here, we know that we need to have 600 units as our ending balance here. And we need 1,850 as our, as what we sold. Now, in this case, since we know what my average cost per item is, right, because we calculated here for this entire batch of inventory, we know for a fact that it's going to cost me $5.6663 per item that I sell. So here, that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to pop in my average cost per item because that's how much it's going to cost me for every item that I sell. So this is where I'm going to teach you a new formula, okay? And so let's do the cost of goods sold first, okay? So because usually that's what we're supposed to do. We're going to take the total amount of cost of items that we sold, and we're going to multiply it by the average cost per item. So in this case, this is what I'm going to teach you. It's equal round, okay? Open parentheses or tab if you want to activate it, right? You're going to go and put your formula that you want to calculate. So in this case, I want to calculate what 1,850 multiplied by this 5.66633, right? So that's my first argument, is what is the equation, or what is the formula that you're trying to figure out, okay? Once you've done that, then the next one is going to be a comma, which will end your argument. And now it's going to be, how many decimal places do you want to be rounded off by? Now in this case, we need to round to the nearest penny. The nearest penny is going to be 2 decimal places. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. I want it to be round to 2 decimal places. Okay? And usually your formula can work by entering right now. So that tells me that I have a $10,482.70. Okay? Let's practice that formula one more time in the ending balance. Okay? So you're gonna do equal round, open parentheses or tab if you want to, select that formula. We want to know what 600 multiplied by that 5.66633, and because I want it rounded to the nearest penny, so I end my argument with a comma, I'm going to go ahead and type in 2 because I want it rounded into 2 decimal places, and I can go ahead and safely enter, and I get $3,399.80. And does that equal this? Yes, it does. 3399.80 equals. Okay. Now, what am I doing here that is different? Okay, so let me show you the difference here. Okay. If I were to go ahead and just calculate it normally, I still get the same answer. What's the difference with this? Well, I'm going to show you what the difference is. So one of them, I just went ahead and it's multiplied across, right? The way that Excel is tricking you is because I formatted to only show me 2 decimal places, or show me the nearest penny, right? That's the counting style. But if I were to go ahead and open it up and look at how many decimals are in here, you're going to see that it is more than 70 cents. In this case, it's 70.4082. And if you're not careful, right, you might be plugging it in here and subtracting it from a solid number. You're going to get an even different answer from there. So that is exactly why I want you to round your answers, because it's true, right? Can you charge a customer 0.4082 cents?
No.
No. Can you charge yourself, because this is what it cost me? Can I pay 0.42 cents to my vendor? No.
No.
So that is exactly why we need to round our answers. And I prefer you to round it again using this. Because what if I said, okay, if I did 1,800, right? And let's say I round this answer to 5.767, right? What would the difference be here? Well, in this case, you don't need to round your answers, but look at this. From this exact sale, it cost you $10,489.50. You just lost $7 to profits. You could have earned those extra $7. Here, I'll even show you the difference between the two. You lost $6.80 to profits. That's money that you could have generated. But because you rounded early on in the cost per item, right? You end up losing that opportunity to take advantage of $6.80 profit. And that right there is technically almost one of these items for free. So you lost on selling one item. That's a lot, especially if you're going to be doing this on the daily or on, you're going to be doing this all the time because, again, inventory doesn't just happen one time. Inventory is a constant thing that you need to constantly do, especially if you're in a grocery store, right? How many times do you need to restock your shelves? How many times is this rounding early going to hurt your business, right? Especially for small businesses, every penny counts. So that $6.80 right there will hurt your business. Okay, so that's the rule of thumb. There is what's the difference between rounding before or rounding at the end? Rounding at the end is definitely better because not only you get a more accurate answer, but second of all is you get more opportunities to take advantage of every penny that you can earn for a profit. Okay, so there's that. I'll leave it there for you guys so you guys can see the difference between them. Okay, one of them, right, the colored ones are equal rounded formula. Well, this one is a regular formula, so you could see where you can have the troubles of, getting that extra number there. And then this one is if you're rounding the average cost per item, you're going to end up losing money out of the profits. Okay, so I'm just going to leave that there for references. All right, so now that we've finished our inventory worksheet, we now need to complete our conversion entry. Okay, so that is something definitely that I want you guys to keep practicing because it's important. That is a necessary thing that you have to do. And this is going to be considered an adjustment entry, right? Because in this case, I don't have my purchase expense anymore. They're going to get zeroed out at the end of the day. But in this case, I need to adjust my inventory because I actually have inventory left remaining. In order for me to carry it on to my next accounting cycle, I need to transfer it and make an adjustment saying that I do have inventory behind. Okay? So in this case, what am I going to be recognizing for my journal? For my conversion entry.
Purchase expense.
Okay, so purchase expense will be, this is conversion entry. I'm not purchasing my inventory. So in this case, I will be needing it to take out from
Inventory.
inventory. What else?
Cost of goods sold.
You got the cost of goods sold. And then you have your freight expense. Okay, so in this case, what was the total value of my ending inventory? No.
980.
Yes, that was your goods available, so that's good. So there you go, 3. Now, what was my total cost of goods sold?
It's 10,000 then.
And then purchase price?
13,882.50.
That's going to include the freight.
637.50.
Yes, and then the freight was separately $245. Yes, they have to be separate because that's how you journalized it, right? When you made a purchase of inventory, you separated the two. Okay, good. And then last but not least, let's double confirm that we made no typos here or that we got our debits equaling our total credits. So I got 13,882.50 on the left, 13,882.50 on the right. And let me go ahead and do my little entry here. Conversion entry for periodic inventory. We had 600 units remaining, and then we sold and 1850 units. Okay. Good. All right, so let's go ahead and continue doing the second part here, okay? So again, question 3 says you're going to continue the inventory exercise and you're going to, that your inventory method is periodic and it's weighted average. So in this case, I have beginning inventory, right? I have a beginning inventory on April 30th that I had a total of 600 units. We know that because we just actually calculated that, right? Now in this case here, it tells me that my average cost is 5.6633, right? That's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to carry this exact amount over into my inventory on hand section in my new page. So 339980 is what I am looking at. So here quantity was 600 units at 339980. Right? And of course with this you could also solve for average cost here. It doesn't matter because it won't matter because we're going to be making purchases of inventory. Okay? So in this case this is, so what I want to do here is I want to recognize down below for my totals here that I have a total of 600 units at a total cost of that 339980. Okay? So then let's go ahead and add in my purchases. So here on May 5th, you purchased 500 units at $6.25 with a freight cost of $50. Right? We purchased 500 units at $6.25. Okay, so what's my purchase price here?
It'll be 3125.
Mm-hmm. Let me...
And then it'll be 3175 for the total cost.
Good. And here you do not need to do a cost, your average cost per item, because it wouldn't matter anyway. You could do it for practice purposes, but it wouldn't matter anyway. Okay. So then let's see what's next. May 10 is next. We end up purchasing 800 units at $6 each with a freight cost of $80.
That's 4,800.
Okay. Plus $80 worth of freight.
$48.80.
Mm-hmm. All right, May 20th, we end up purchasing another 300 units at $6.15 with a freight of $15.
Okay, that's 1845 and 1860.
Okay. And then I believe we have one more purchases after this. One more purchase. We got May 25th. Purchase 100 units at $6.30 with a freight of 5.
Okay, that's 630 and 635.
Okay. And let's see what else. Last thing that you have here is May 31st. You have a total of 400 units on hand. Okay? 400 units on hand. So ending balance is going to be 400. So now let's tally up our totals again to find out what our totals are here. Okay. Starting with our total quantity. How many total items did I purchase?
$13.40.
500 plus 800 plus 300 plus 100.
1,700.
1,700 units. Okay. What is my total purchase price? $10,400. Total freight is $150. Add those two numbers together, you should get $10,550. Now this, once again, we are unable to actually do the average cost because now we need to include our beginning inventory. So in this case, we won't be doing the calculations there. Okay, we'll do the calculations in the goods available. Okay. Okay. So in this case, let's plug our numbers in. Okay. So we purchased a total of 1,700 at 10,400. We're assuming that there are no purchase returns and allowances, so that's going to decrease to 0. Okay. And then we know that freight adds nothing to quantity, but it adds to the purchase price. So in this case, 150. So this is your total net purchases, right? You got 1,700 units at 10,550. Okay. Now, do we have beginning inventory?
Yes.
Yes, we do, right? We carried over 600 units over, costing at a grand total of $3,399.80. So I'm going to call this my red batch, right? And what we're going to do with that is we're going to carry that red batch right here. That we have 600 units with a total cost of $3,399.80. Okay? And of course, we're going to carry down our net purchases of 1,700 to give us our total grand available units. So in this case, we got $13,949.80 with a grand total of 2,300 units available to sell. Okay. So it's up to you if you want to solve for your average cost per item now. You may do so. But in this case, let's go ahead and just finish off the rest of this. So now that you have 2,300 units available and you have 400 left remaining, how much have you sold? You sold 1,900 units. So in this case, we need to solve for our ending our cost of goods sold and our ending inventory. Okay. So in this case, we know for a fact that there is 400 units remaining and there's 1,900 units that we sold. We need to now solve for our average cost per item. So in this case, we know we have 2,300 units available and we know what the total cost of that is. The total cost is $13,949.80, right? So in this case, I can solve for my average cost right here, right? What is $13,949.80 divided by the 2,300 units? What is my average cost going to be here?
$6.06513.
Good. So that means if this is the average cost, then we can go ahead and multiply our numbers across. So equal round, right? I want to know what 400 multiplied by the 6.0651,304, comma, to end my equation. And I want it to be 2 decimal places. Okay? Boom. So I get $2,426.05. So let's see if I click and drag that formula. I get $11,523.75. Okay. So therefore, cost of goods sold was $11,523.75, and my ending balance should match at $2,426.05. See? Quick and easy.
Okay, how did you get the cost of goods sold again? The 1,900.
Because we had 2,300 available to sell,
Okay.
and I have 400 left remaining in my inventory.
Okay.
So I just subtracted 2 to get my assumption that if I started out with 2,300 units in my closet, right? And I go down there and I count only 400, my assumption is I must have sold all of the rest of the units because they're gone. So this was just a minus 2,300 minus 400 to get you 1,900.
Okay.
All right, so any questions? Okay, once again, this is probably the most easiest costing method, right? Because we don't have to worry about which batch came first, which batch came last. All we care about is just adding them all up together and finding an average cost and calculating it from there. So it's straightforward, much more easier. And that's why it's much more preferable because, again, if you're a company that sells millions and millions and millions of items, what is the possibility you're going to be able to keep track of every single item? It's almost very impossible, right? You're better off doing an average cost because it's much more easier to calculate, and that way you don't have to keep track of your batches of inventory, right? And this also includes returns and allowances, which we'll learn next week on Monday when we do the Chapter 5 review, okay? So that should actually take up maybe 2 days of our class time, which is fine. We are perfectly right on schedule, okay? So next week will be Chapter 5 review. Now, this case, let's finish off our conversion entry. Okay, so now it's May 31st. What am I going to recognize?
Inventory.
Inventory. What else am I going to recognize?
Cost of goods sold.
Yes, so inventory, cost of goods sold, your purchase expense, and your freight expense. Good. Anything else I need to recognize?
You have your
Conversion entry for periodic inventory, what you had left and what you sold.
Okay, let's do the we'll run the formula one more time. Okay, hold on, I accidentally put it too close. I'm gonna insert a row real quick. Okay, so in this case, what was my ending balance in my inventory? 400. We're talking, okay, total cost.
2,426.
Good. What was my total value of my cost of goods sold?
11,000.
Good. What was the value of my total purchases? What was the purchase price? Purchase expense?
10,400.
10,400. And then what was my freight? 150. So let's do that. Equal sum. So I have $13,949.80 on the left, and I have $10,550 on the right. So that means I'm missing something here. So let's do the calculation. 13,949.80 minus 10,550. I'm missing a number that's worth $3,399.80. And where have we seen that before?
Balance.
The beginning balance in my inventory. So in this case, that's always, you need to remember, if you have beginning inventory, you have to remember to put that in there as well. Okay, so now it's conversion entry for periodic inventory, right? We had an ending balance of 400 units. And we sold 1,900 units. Okay, good. All right. So let's see. It's we have time to do the second exercise. So let's go ahead and do the second exercise. Okay. So here's your scenario. Now I went ahead and plugged it in for you automatically. So all we're doing here is just practicing calculating the purchase price and the total cost. Okay, so in this case, there are slightly different numbers than what we had previously. Okay, so in this case, on June 1st, I have 1,500 units at $1.30. So what would be my purchase price here?
$19.50.
$19.50. Okay. plus $200 freight.
2150.
$21.50. Because we know we have a bunch of inventory, no need to do it a cost per item. Okay. Second one, on June 5th, we purchased 700 units at $1.35 purchase price. What was that, random? Sorry.
That's okay. 945.
$9.45 plus 100.
1045.
$10.45. Then June 8th, we purchased 950 units at $1.32.
154.
Plus 120.
1374.
Good. Then on June 10, we purchased 1,200 units at $1.30.
1560.
Plus 150.
1710.
Good. All right, last two batches here. On June 12th, we purchased 800 units at $1.25.
1000.
Okay, plus 100.
1100.
1,100. Okay. And then last one is going to be June 14. We purchased 550 units at $1.30.
715.
Plus $70.
785.
$785. Awesome. So let's go ahead and take a look at what happened next. June 15. You should have a total of 500 units left on hand. Okay? So that's what we know. We have 500 units. So that means we need to solve for our total totals here. So in this case, what was my total amount that I have purchased? What was my grand total quantity?
$5,700.
5,700. Okay. And I'll just save you some time here. Grand total purchase price was $7,424. Grand total freight was $740. And grand total cost is $8,164. Okay. So again, you can choose to solve for your average cost right here, or you could choose to wait till the end at the goods available. Whichever one works best for you. I'm going to go ahead and wait till the end when I do my goods available. Okay. So let's go ahead and calculate our net purchases here. So we have 5,700 units at 642,400. We are assuming we have 0 returns and allowances. Oh, excuse me. All right. Freight adds 0 to quantity, but it adds to total cost of $740. So my total net purchases, excuse me, is going to be 5,700 units at $8,164. Thank you. Okay. So again, I'm going to color this green so we know that we're going to carry that down here under our net purchases, excuse me. Okay. All right, so again, we're assuming we have no beginning inventory. So my net purchases will become my goods available. Now in this case, I have a total of 5,700 units available to sell, and I am left with only 500 units remaining. So my assumption is I must have sold a grand total of how many units?
200. 5,200.
5,200. Good. So again, I need to solve for 3 things, right? I need to solve for my cost of goods sold. Okay. I need to solve for my ending balance. And I need to also solve for my average cost per item. So in this case, we know for a fact that we have 5,700 units, and its grand total right now is at 8,164. So in this case, what will become my average cost per item?
$1.432282.
Norman, is that you? Sorry about that, guys. Okay. So we know what our average costs are, right? And we know that for our ending balance, we have 600 units left, or 500 units left, and we know that we have sold 5,200 units. So in this case, equal round formula is I want to know what 5,200 times 1.43228, comma, to end your argument, and I want it to be 2 decimal places. So therefore, I should get $7,447.86. And of course, you can also copy this formula above as well too. So there you go. You get 716.14 for the ending balance. Okay, so those are the numbers you're going to be plugging in here. And this should be like that. Okay. All right. Any questions in regards to weighted average?
No.
Okay, so let's complete our last thing here, which is going to be doing our conversion entry. So it's already filled in for you. It is June 15. What was the ending balance in our inventory?
$715 $16.14.
Good. Right, let me shrink this a bit. Okay. We have our cost of goods sold. How much was my cost of goods sold?
$7,447.
Okay. And then what is my total purchases?
$7,424.
And what was my total freight?
740.
740.
Excellent. So let's go ahead and do my little equal sum to ensure that my total debits equal my total credits. So in this case, I get a total of $8,164 on the left, $8,164 on the right. And that is as many examples. That's good enough, right? Because next week we got more examples, and the week after that we got way more examples. So any questions in regards to using the inventory worksheet? Again, the most simplest one. All right. And then next week we will see the complexity of what happens when we have returns and allowances. So any questions now?
No.
No.